This is the best bench Titan has ever made. I wish that was more of an accomplishment, but it's pretty good. The Titan Series Adjustable Bench. If you're looking for a high value bench that delivers above its price tag, this might be the one for you. As a ladder style bench, it's hard to stick out in a sea of clones, but I think Titan's done enough to make this one worth some serious consideration. I've said it before, and this bench is making me say it again. Titan has an important place in the industry, and that's in keeping other companies honest with their prices, and this bench serves up some humble pie. Now, does that make it perfect? No. There's a few things I don't like about it that we'll get to as we compare it to a few other benches because I've got them all. Now, that's not me bragging. That's me admitting that when I came up with the idea to make the ultimate bench comparison video a few years ago, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I've almost completed my collection and nobody spends money like I do. Ask my wife. So subscribe so you don't miss it. But let's get into the biggest thing that jumps out about this bench, and that's the price. At $450 shipped, the biggest competition to this is Rep's AB4100 because their price tags are so close, and the 5200 2.0 because that's Rep's top of the line ladder style bench, and this is Titan's. This also has a similar build to Rogue's AB 3.0, so we'll discuss those and put it up against a few other benches when it makes sense. But if you're looking for a do everything bench like Iron Master's Super Bench Pro or Bells of Steel Buzzsaw, I'd first turn off your ad blocker to enhance your viewing experience and then finish watching this video, then watch our reviews of those two. They're both good and very versatile options, and if you want the ability to decline or enjoy awkwardly storing 35 attachments, they're worth checking out. But if you're looking for a well-done bench that doesn't try to do too much, these are all better options. But I don't discriminate. I'll gladly link all of the benches we talk about in the description in case you decide this review is helpful and you want to support us. If you purchase something using one of those links, we get a small commission at no cost to you, and I get to keep doing this. So thank you. You are the reason I am still doing this. Typically in these reviews, I do a little assembly montage because after spending well over an hour putting together my Rogue AB 3.0, it's something I factor into my purchases. But with this one, there's no point. You're just bolting on the pads and the back leg. It couldn't be quicker or easier. Also, I might have forgot to record it, so that kind of played a little role in me leaving that part out. Titan did a good job with their packaging too, which is important because that hasn't always been the case. And I bring that up because I think it's one of the signs that Titan is trying to do better as a company. A few of the others being the SquatMax MD is the best thing I've ever seen from them. We have all of their new barbells and they're a step up in quality over the old versions. And of course, this bench versus their past models. But the biggest indicator of how seriously companies are taking their products are in the naming conventions, because as they make better products, they give them dumber names. Rogue has 47 variations of a bar with Ohio in the name. Rep likes numbers that kind of almost symbolize something. And Titan calls their best stuff Titan, which really never gets confusing. Actually, the real indicator is their lead engineer sent me a 4-page email explaining the decisions behind this bench and additional PDF documents comparing it to others. That's not a joke. They took some real pride in this one, and I think they might be a little scared of one overly critical nerd who thinks he matters because he talks to himself in his garage gym all day. So what did I learn? I'll be the first one to tell you that Titan hasn't always lived up to our expectations as consumers, which means that this is that awkward moment when I say this was sent to me for free for review and I'm still going to be me. On paper, the Titan Series adjustable bench is very similar to a lot of other options, but let's be honest. it's a ladder style bench. Once you get to a certain quality level, they all share a lot of similarities. It's a tripod bench, which is ideal because the front feet will never get in the way of your feet, but it's still stable because Titan is using 11 gauge steel throughout, making for a very solid bench with a 1,000 pound weight capacity when flat and 600 pounds when inclined. And I know a few of you are thinking 600 pounds really isn't enough for incline, and I have to agree with you a little bit there because that is typically what I spider curl. Really, I think the vast majority of us will be more than fine. The footprint is similar, though a little bit smaller than Rep's AB5200 and Rogue's Manta Ray, and it sits at 17 inches high, which is ideal because it meets IPF specs and is what's comfortable for most people. There's very little movement in the back pad. I really be nitpicking to complain about this because they're using a similar hinge system to Rep's AB5200 2.0, which is also incredibly stable, but we'll talk more about the hinge in a minute because I do have a little complaint there. With 9 back positions ranging from 0 to 85 degrees and 3 seat positions, you got pretty much any angle you'd need, and with laser cut angle markings cut into the ladder cages, the Titan Series adjustable bench is basically offering what everyone else does, and of course, as any modern bench should, it stores upright. But this is where we'll get to some important differences and a few complaints, which brings us to the most important part of any bench review, the wife test. Often imitated, never duplicated. Watch any of our reviews and I'll say the same thing. Winnie's favorite bench is Rep's AB4100, and pretty much for one reason. All she wants is a solid bench that's light and easy to move around, and maybe for me to have ordered it in purple, but she's gonna have to live with that mistake. So what's the problem here? I'm used to trying to fit things into tight spaces, but because Titan has enclosed the wheels and added UHMW on the back, it's a really cool touch, so your finish isn't getting beat up like on a lot of my other benches. So while that and the wider storage pad make it a little more stable when stored upright, it also means the UHMW near the wheels will sometimes catch when you're moving it around. It only happens at high angles, but in a confined space, it can be a little annoying, which is my long-winded way of saying Winnie isn't the biggest fan of moving it around, and yes, I might have removed a few vulgarities and refined her wording a bit there. Another thing I don't love about this bench is that the hinge is set a little high, so when flat benching, it'll sometimes touch my butt, and I know that sounds weird, but I like to do all the butt touching around here. It's not a problem when angled, and the 1.5 inch pad gap is pretty small, so it's not a deal breaker, and the back pad is 40 inches long, so that's long enough that most people could just bench on that. I would also like to see it a little more customizable. Right now, your only finish option is this black powder coat, which is very well done, but they also don't have a wide pad option. You can only get it with this 12-inch wide version, but we'll get to my other thoughts. First, let's talk about the pad, because with all other things being similar between your choices, and I'm not saying all of these benches are the same, they're not. There's a lot of subtle differences in the designs, build quality, their features, and so on. Titan's bench, for example, isn't competing with the Manta Ray. That's an absolutely fantastic bench, but it does cost over $1,000. It's also the only one of these that's made in America. The rest of these are imported. It's only here because I need to justify the purchase to my wife, so I include it in all my videos. Really, it's here because it has the best pad on the market, in my opinion. And since these are all solid options, if you're looking for a high value adjustable bench, I can't say that functionally any of these are going to do much more than the others, unless you're looking for the ability to decline. So the pad becomes then the next big factor. And a good example of how a pad can take away from an otherwise well-done bench is Rogue's AB 3.0. I didn't like the original pad, and I don't really like the premium one, and I know someone's gonna argue with me, but Rogue switched to the Thompson vinyl and pad on the Manta Ray for a reason. So here's my super scientific rating system that I'll probably forget about and never mention again. I'm rating these on 4 areas, which then gives us an overall rating. Now, I'll admit this is all a bit subjective. Some of us might enjoy a bit more cushioning on the backside, or maybe you like when that really grips. But we're putting Rep's clean grip up against Rogue's Thompson pad and Titan's hefty grip. Let's start with the Manta Ray because it's about as close to a 10 out of 10 that I think there is. The grip on this vinyl is exceptional. You won't ever slip on it. And I also think it's the most durable option because not only is the stitching very well done, but the vinyl is a little bit thicker than the others. Rep's Clean Grip is another very well done pad, and I'd rank it just behind Rogue. The foam isn't quite as firm as the Thompson pad, which may actually be a little stiff for some, but I can't tell you how hard you're gonna like it. It's actually probably the perfect middle ground for a lot of people. Great grip and durability, good build quality, and just solid all around. Titan's Hefty Grip actually features the grippiest vinyl here, and the only reason I don't rank it above Rogue's in that category is because the fabric is a little looser than the others, so it can slide a little, but it's honestly really kind of nitpicking to dock it much there. It's also the softest of these, so you may sink in some during heavy benches, but it's still very comfortable, and honestly, these are all very good. So unless some spoiled prick online told you otherwise, I don't really think anyone would complain about them much. So where does that leave this bench overall? I tend to like overbuilt benches, and this is a little overbuilt. The frame is actually mostly welded together, which helps with the stability, and the welds are good, which hasn't always been Titan's strong suit. Really, overall, the build quality at this price is a little surprising. You've got a lot of nice little touches here that make the bench pop a little bit, like the red anodized knobs, the zinc coating on the cages, and there's a brushed aluminum plate in the frame gusset there, and those little subtle things show off some of the attention to detail Titan has put into this. That's important because for a long time, they've kind of lacked polish and many of their releases felt rushed. Now, how does it stand up against Rep, which is kind of seen as the dominant force in home gym benches? I think pretty well. It's a little beefier than the 4100, though they have similar weight capacities, and Rep's is lighter at 85 pounds versus 120 on Titans. Rep's has more finish options across their lines, with the 5200 2.0 being the best example of that, as there's a lot of ways to customize it. But it also costs at least $100 more depending on how you build it, though it is the better of these two. As for which one you should pick, I think this is very well priced, but I also think that you could make a case for all 3 of these depending on your budget and needs. But what do I know? Let me know what you think, and tell me if there's any benches you want to see in our big bench showdown, because it's coming. Thanks to our Patreons, links in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.